Today I'm going to talk about copyright and terms of service. My Twitter handle is KelseyPF, K-E-L-C-E-Y, P as in Patrick, F as in Ferree. So, copyright and terms of service. By now everyone has probably heard about the attorney who in February read the Pinterest terms of service and kind of freaked out and took down all of her boards and wrote a blog post about it that went viral. And so what she read in those terms of service was actually fairly typical for a social media site. If you're putting something on a social media site, they expect you to either own it or be able to give them the right to display it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to own it. It means you have to have permission to put it on the site. There are a lot of different ways to get that permission, and one of the ways is to look at the terms of service for the site that you're posting from. If it says something about being able to share, you're probably going to be okay. You want to look for the right kind of wording for that. Other ways include actually asking permission directly from the owner of the website. A lot of the bigger companies are probably doing that. You can also look at whether you can use something through fair use. You can look for things that aren't subject to copyright, stuff that's fallen into the public domain, stuff that's owned by the U.S. government is not subject to U.S. copyright.
Say, Kelsey, just in case people don't know, could you just touch on fair use really quickly, what that means for someone?
Sure. Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act allows for fair use, which scholars disagree about exactly what the purpose of fair use is, but a lot of people think that it allows for copyright to coexist with the First Amendment. Basically, if you meet certain criteria and you're commenting or criticizing or doing educational work, you can use copyrighted material or portions of copyrighted material for those very limited purposes. So that's all I wanted to say about copyright in terms of use. The other thing that I was going to talk about today was who owns your social media accounts, especially if you are tweeting or Facebooking or what have you on behalf of a company. And this goes to the terms of service again. Facebook's terms of service initially said that whoever set up a page was the owner of that page forever, no matter what. Facebook has changed its terms of service and how the whole page setup works, which is much more business friendly now. You can transfer ownership of a page than you used to be able to. Twitter is a little bit more ambiguous. There's a case that's been in the news lately, the PhoneDoc case. PhoneDoc hired a guy as a contractor to tweet for it, and then he left, but he changed his account name instead of handing over the account to PhoneDoc. There's a lawsuit, and it's really not clear where that's going to go. I checked last night, and there was nothing new on that since it was discussed here 2 months ago, so we'll see where that goes.
I'm an attorney. I do mostly copyright, trademark, and internet law broadly, but copyright, trademark law is the bulk of my practice. I'm going to cover a couple of different topics really quickly.
Hey, Paul, what is your Twitter handle?
Oh, my Twitter handle is Paul Godfrey, all one word, G-O-D-F-R-E-A-D.
One more time, a little louder.
P-A-G-O-D-F-R-E-A-D.
This isn't public television.
Is it?
So you don't whisper.
Okay. I was really working on my NPR voice. Well, okay, so a couple of things I was going to touch on is blogger testimonials and disclosure law about that. Maybe a little bit about defamation, and then maybe very briefly the trademark law. Well, I just want to check to make sure I'm covered. I know we don't have a lot of time. I really want to do the questions because I think that's where the fun stuff's going to be. But a couple of years ago, the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, came out with some blogger guidelines about testimonials about products and things. Now, this isn't necessarily new law. The FTC comes up with guidelines every now and then about what's allowed, what's not allowed under the FTC Act, what's a deceptive trade practice. And what we do about the blogger guidelines is that the FTC was concerned that perhaps bloggers would be pitching products that it wasn't necessarily clear to someone reading a blog that they were paid or even compensated. So the guidelines came out and they said, if you're a blogger and you're reviewing or talking about a product, you have to disclose if you were compensated with anything of value. And that could be just a free thing. It could just be, you know, you got a free cup of coffee and the restaurant wanted to say, well, how was the coffee? Why don't you blog about it? A cup of coffee might only be a couple bucks, but in theory, you might have to disclose that. This, I think, is going to be an interesting area of developing law because reviews and the like seem to be becoming a bigger part of advertising generally. A lot of, especially local businesses or smaller businesses, really rely on their Yelp reviews, their Amazon reviews, and everything else. I think I saw an XKCD comic just a couple days ago talking about the perils of buying a lamp now that there's online reviews and they can't even buy anything because they say, well, this one only got 3 stars, and it can be really confusing. And you know, companies rely quite a bit on what everyone's saying online. So the FTC is at least paying attention. The law hasn't necessarily changed. The question is still, is it deceptive? Is a consumer reading this review going to feel deceived by not knowing that you were given a free cup of coffee or paid millions of dollars? The only caveat is if you're a celebrity, you don't have to disclose because according to the FTC, they already assume you're shilling. So you could still assert your own support, but more and more, I think some of this is going to be dealt with through the platforms and through their however they decide what's fair, what's not fair. So I think that's the quick version. Are we on to questions?
Yeah, I think that's great.